Okay. We live. I was having some technical difficulties, so just gonna wait until some of the questions start coming in, but I am gonna be talking about, let me know if you can hear me, but I am gonna be talking about past performance today. So let me get my stuff going on this side. What's up, Everything by John? Let me know if you can hear me good, because I was having some technical difficulty. And thank you for joining. You can hear me good. Give me a little thumbs up or something. I don't know. Everything is like working against me right now. Loud and clear. Thank you. Thank you, Shanita. And thank you, John. I am setting up my thizzle. Again, the topic today is past performance. So feel free to just start dropping your questions in there while I get myself together on this other side. This is like a question that a lot of people ask about. I'm not sure why, because I feel like I answer this in almost all of my videos, but nonetheless, that's what we're here for. We're here to learn and grow, help each other. But I see it needs to be like a separate thingy, like it needs to be separate. What's up, Advantage Property Group? I appreciate it. Go. That's right. If you have questions, just go ahead and start dropping them in the comment section while I get this side together. For past performance. Yep, let them roll in, and I'll just start reading them. And if you have any like stories you want to share about past performance or anything like that, just let me know. And then, just say it, in other words. If you have any experiences you want to share, maybe about some past performance that you used that was unique or different or whatever. I ended up having a conversation with someone who was like pretty well established in his business, and he was really, really surprised about like how I did my past performance when I first started. And I thought that was kind of funny, thinking that everybody would do the same thing. But I think I'm an out of the box thinker, in the box and out of the box. So I feel like for that reason, I I find a way. I'm a find a way type of person. So let those questions roll on in. I'm always gonna solicit for that super chat if you feel like what I'm providing is valuable. So so we good. All right. Boom. Thank you guys for joining. I think I'm streaming live on Instagram, so I'm not really sure how that works. So if you have questions, and it only lasts for an hour, just in case I'm on here for longer than an hour. History has shown that I am on this live for longer than an hour. But if there is, if you're on Instagram, not really sure how the questions come through. So forgive me in advance, but you guys got the questions coming through. So that's dope. We can go ahead and get started. All right. So Shanita is asking, shout out to Shanita, my GovConNOW student. Watch her, the live that I did with her where she won 4 contracts in 90 days. Boop, 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 to you. So Shanita's asking, what happens if I'm new in the industry and don't have any past performance? Okay, perfect. Segue right into this topic. So for one, the first question that I ask is, do you have any experience in that industry? Period. Like meaning like, have you ever done anything like this? For example, I was in the Army, I was 20 years in IT. So even though if I came straight from the Army doing IT for 20 years and I went into IT in my business, I have past performance. Like it wasn't technically like a part of my company, but it was me. I mean, like I am my company, so you can use that as past performance. So for example, if in IT, they're asking, do you have any help desk? Does your firm have any help desk experience? Yes, it does, because I have help desk experience and I'm able to speak the language. Now, if they do, sometimes they get really specific with that, where they'll say, we have to check the reference of the same of the previous federal contractor that you provided services for as a contractor, they might ask something really, really specific like that, where they want you to be like the same size and scope of what they're asking for. So they may say, we need a help desk that can support 10,000 users. And you may have done that as an individual employee somewhere, but it's like, okay, well, did my firm provide that? And did I have employees that have done that with my company? So Shanita's saying, yes, she's seen that where it was super specific. I'm guessing that's what you mean. Now, if it just says, do you have past performance? Yes, I do. So the same with anything. So the next thing would be, if you don't have any past performance, you need to find it. Meaning, I'll use Shanita for an example. If we work together and she's like, hey, Sheena, can you please let the city of Miami, and this is what everyone does. So I don't know if anybody's going to come down and say, oh, you shouldn't be telling people that, but this is what I did. And I believe in, spreading the gospel. So Shanita says, Sheena, I really need to show this company have past performance. Tell them that I did this work with you in this location, work that I can prove. So I can prove that I did cleaning, for example, for a university locally here in Atlanta. So Shanita is going to say that she worked with me doing cleaning in the Atlanta area with this university. So that's her past performance. So she's finding the past performance, someone who's willing to basically vouch for you the same way they would if you were asking for a reference. I'm sure we've all been there, like with your first few jobs that you had to ask your sister-in-law, baby cousin Tracy, if they can be a reference for you or something like that. So, that's how you find it. Boom. So I think that answered that question. Hello, is it J Ply? What's up? I'm going to get to your question in just a second. Again, we're talking about past performance. So let the questions roll in. I'm live on Instagram and on YouTube, but I don't know how the questions roll in on Instagram. So forgive me in advance because I'm not really sure how that works. So yeah. Next question is, how do you leverage past performance to get more contracts? That's a really good question. As far as leverage, I would say the leverage is in the eye of the beholder. So for example, if you want to work with someone like me, I'm not a braggadocious person. If you know me, I'm just saying, I've been doing this for a while. So if you were to come to me and say, hey, Sheena, I have worked at this level. I've worked with, a staff of 10 people. I've had multiple contractors at one time, or I've done contracts throughout, the whole state, and I've been able to manage it. Then you're pretty much leveraging your past performance with me. I'm not saying that I'm hard to, I guess, for lack of a better word, impress, but it's more like I need to know if I'm bringing you on board that you can handle certain situations, because when it gets down to this shmoney, I am not playing. Like, I need you to be on it. And so you letting me know that you've been able to manage something like that is leveraging your past performance with me. Now, when it comes to an agency, so I guess there's three threes. So if I'm in your peer group, essentially, I'm a small business, then I already explained how you're leveraging it with me. And then with an agency, you're basically letting them know that you can handle something. Of course, you have to have the past performance in order to leverage past performance. But also, same thing when it comes to, I've been able to operate at this scope, at this level. Even if you're an individual employee, you can kind of use that as leverage with an agency. When it comes to, let's say the other one was like larger companies, larger companies. So you're going to build a partnership with a company that you don't know, that's large, that has, they could crush you when it comes to the money, or if there was any issues, they could do that. It's similar to working with a peer, where you're letting them know, hey, I can operate at this level. And if anyone has ever filled out, it's more like, not corporate, well, me being in facilities and like construction and stuff, a lot of the companies that we work with are like large construction companies that want us to fill out like a sub packet, or some sort of registration with them because they're a large company. They want to know what you've done as well. So you can come to them and let them know, I've done this, and usually it'll be a little better of a relationship than not. I hope that answered your question. Boom. All right. So keep them coming. And then if no questions really come in, then I'm going to start just like explaining a little bit more about past performance. So Shanita said that's what I'm working towards now. I'm assuming you're talking about working towards like larger companies. Okay, subcontracting with construction companies. Yeah. They usually want more. That's another thing too. They usually want more than an agency or another small business. Like I have filled out like a registration with JE Dunn, really large company. I believe they're headquartered here. They have an office here for sure. But that thing took me like a week to do. It was so much. They wanted so much. They wanted your taxes. They wanted all your past performance written out in detail. They wanted your financial, personal financial statement. Because, and I get it, because really they want to be risk adverse. They're not the agency. They're not, they are taking on a lot of the risk. And if they have to replace you if you're not, if you're not up to par. So I get it, but it's just, it's kind of, sometimes it's a little harder to work with larger companies. The next question, JPly 23, how do you find out if a business is actually a small business according to the size standard? I ask because when calling a company, people wouldn't know if the company makes 18 million or less. I ask because when calling a company, people wouldn't know. Now the size standard is based on the industry, based on the NAICS code. I've seen some go up to like 30 million. I think I've seen maybe the lowest go down to like 8 million as far as the size standard. So for those who don't know what the size standard is, thank you, Jessica, for the super chat. I appreciate it. Let me go ahead and highlight that real quick. I appreciate it very, very much. If you feel like this information is valuable, super chat, appreciate that. So back to the question. So the size standard, what that means for those who don't know is the Small Business Administration has like a matrix, if you will, where they say this industry is considered small if it makes under this dollar amount. And back when I first started, I thought that meant if you made under $1 million, you anything over $1 million is a large business. Like I was so clueless. And that's a righteous thought. So size standard means that the government feels like you're still considered small. Now, construction usually is like one of the highest, where it's like 30 million, under 30 million, and you're still considered a small business. So if you make 29 million, it's still a small business. So you wouldn't necessarily know unless it depends on why you're calling them. Like, are you calling them to partner with them? Are you calling them to, like, what is the reason why you're calling, I guess, is the main question. Because if you're calling them for them to be like for you to be the mentor protege program with them or something like that, then you really wouldn't know. But you can always, that's actually, I didn't think about them being outside of government, because you wouldn't know how much they made unless you knew. So yeah. My question to you, JPly 23, is why do you care if they're a small business? Yeah. Why do you care as another business? So that'll help me understand where you're coming from. What's up, Casino? Shout out to Casino. Yeah, so basically knowing why you need to know if they're a small business, because that doesn't really, I guess, matter. Okay, so the response to that, I'd be calling to sub work with them. Again, I'd be calling to sub work with them. So you want to be a sub with them, but why does it matter if they're a small business? Are you trying to get a set aside contract? Are you trying to, yeah, I'm not really sure why that part would matter. But so yeah, as far as past performance, going back to, something else that I mentioned with Shanita, the question that she was asking was, like, how do you get it? And it's really about finding that person who's willing to partner with you until you can get it. Now, a lot of times these agencies, they're not even going to call I shouldn't even be telling y'all this, I swear to God. But they're not even going to call to see if, you know, they're not going to call and check your references. A lot of I'll probably say 85% of the time they do. But then you get into, sometimes people don't answer, sometimes they don't respond. I've had where they wanted a past performance like survey that came in the mail, where I had to complete like numbers 1 through 5, like several pages for an agent, for a small company that needed the past performance to be verified by an agency. So it all depends. And I'm going to go through a list of like the types of past performance, or the way that they request past performance, because I think that's kind of important. Okay, so is it DSGN? I'm sorry. By Ray, just renewed your SAMs. Good for you. So, you know, if you don't renew your SAM after a year, it's going to, I think it just kind of goes into remission. I don't know, lack of a better word. Like it goes away, it goes bye-bye a little bit, and then you have to renew it, but after a while it gets deleted. I don't know if it's like a year or 2 years. Again, those who might be on Instagram, I'm not sure if your comments are coming through. I'm sorry if they are. But if you are asking questions on Instagram and I haven't read it, then please just jump on YouTube. I put the link in my story, so you can ensure that you are getting your questions answered. So the ways that I have been, the ways that I have seen past performance is requested. So I've seen, like I said earlier, where they send something in the mail. The agency is sending an item in the mail for me to fill out for another company, another business who's trying to do business with that agency, and I have to fill it out with like a questionnaire survey, and I have to mail it back. And I've seen where they want to talk on the phone with your past performance reference. Like they just ask, how satisfied are you, or how satisfied were you with the services? What type of services did they provide? Were they professional? Were they on time? What was the quality of work? So sometimes they'll call and ask that, and then sometimes they'll send you a document via email that you have to send back. It has to come back from whoever the reference is, whoever the past performance reference is. It can't come from, like, if Sheena's going after this opportunity and I have to prove past performance, then I send it to Shanita's company. Shanita has to send it back to the agency. I can't send it on behalf of her because obvious reasons. It seems like it's, you know, you doing it yourself. And sometimes that is required before, like, a part of the submission. So that's the hard part, is like, it's a part of, you have to have it before you even get the award, because sometimes the person may not respond back to you. They may not be able to, you know, get to it, or whatever the case may be. They don't know how to answer it, or they just not helping you out. And that might actually cost you your contract, believe it or not. So, okay, getting back to the questions, or getting back to the comments. By Ray, I'm sorry, is it DSGND by Ray? I'm trying to win 3 contracts a month minimum next year. Well, I mean, we only got a couple more days left for the year. So the power of numbers or the power of relationships, I would say. So you can do it. Ask Shanita, she know. Another question, can I use my subcontractor's past performance? Excellent question. If so, how do I list that in the response to the solicitation? Do I need to distinguish whether it's my company's or the subcontractor's company? Fantastic question. It's going to be like a long-ish answer, because it's like with government contracting, it's always maybe and it depends. So can you use your subcontractor's past performance? The short answer is yes. The only way it would be no is if it specifically says in the solicitation you cannot use past performance from your sub. And that's more on the local side. The federal side, I'm going to get into that in a second, but on the local side, very rarely do they give a damn where this experience came from. They just want you to list something, at least showing the effort that you put down, that you have done this, or your sub has done this, or you're even familiar with it. And then on the federal side, though, there's subcontractor limits. Now it's different for every industry. I am in, like construction-ish facilities. It's usually a higher limit for subcontracting. So 85% of my work can go to a subcontractor, not 100%. So those who think they can just like, step back and collect checks and all that, like if you're on the federal level, that's not happening in most industries, especially construction. So there's a subcontractor limit. I don't know the FAR, so don't ask me. Just look it up for yourself. But the limit is contingent upon the job, the industry, several factors. And if you think you can get away with it, what's going to happen is, because this happened to me, where if it shows in your proposal that you submit, like you're working with a sub, whether you got a teaming agreement or you list them as just a sub on there, they are going to send you back a document, or at least it's going to be a part of the solicitation and the proposal that you got to send back. They're going to ask, you have to check off this box stating that you are not, that you comply with the 80 to 85% subcontractor limit, or whatever the percentage is for your industry. You'll have to fill something out, sign it. It might even need to be maybe not notarized, but signing something, checking a box stating that you are not going to exceed that for the subcontractor. So no such thing really, especially on the federal side, as subbing out auto work. That's not really, at least let's just say construction, because I don't want anybody to be beating me up, but pretty much you can't sub out auto work. So you can use the past performance of the sub as long as you can show that you also have experience with that. So an example that I had, I was working with a company. They were an 8A company. I'm SDVOSB, and we did a teaming agreement. It was for an SDVOSB contract, and I was going to be the prime. The 8A company was going to be the sub. When we submitted our documentation, it was for, I think this contract was for like 6 million. No, I'm sorry, 3 million. It was for 3 million. And we had to submit all of our experience. Now, this particular contract required a lot of electrical work, and they were actually an electrical company. So we had done renovations, we had done all that kind of stuff, and we showed, like $1 million, $2 million worth of work at various locations, but not a whole lot of electrical. Like, we didn't expound on the electrical part. That's our fault. Okay, I got that. You live and you learn. But what we got back was you're relying too heavily on the sub financially and like physically, where it's clear that they're going to be doing most of the work, and the location. So where the project was going to be done was where the subcontractor actually headquartered. I think it was in New York or New Jersey, and we're here in Atlanta. So it just looked like we heavily relied on the sub. And so that's where that past performance gets a little tricky, because if you're relying heavily on them and they're very strict, usually that's applied to a set aside. That's another thing I forgot to mention. Usually, if we're talking about sub limits of the past performance, or sub limits period, it's going to be tied to a set aside, which most contracts, when you're first starting out, is going to be a set aside. Even if it's total small business, that's a set aside. It's not open and what's it called? Free and open, or whatever, whatever, open to anybody. It's usually going to be the set asides where they tell you it's the limit, unless that sub is also what that set aside is. So if I'm an SDVOSB, service disabled veteran owned small business, and the sub is a SDVOSB, usually it's okay. Now, I don't remember what the parameters are of that or the exact verbiage, so go look it up yourself. But it's usually not an issue if both of you all have the same designation and that's what you're going after. So thank you for that question. I hope I answered that. And just go ahead and enter in any of your questions. Again, if you're on Instagram and I don't see your questions, my apologies, because I just learned how to stream YouTube and Instagram at the same time. So I can't see nothing on Instagram. But anywho, so with that, make sure y'all do that, drop that stupid chat if you feel like this information is valuable. So subcontract past performance really can be pulled from whatever information, well, whatever past experience that you have personally. If you have a sub that there's no restriction on that solicitation that states that you cannot have, like, you can't have a sub, or it doesn't have anything stating that the past performance is like, if it's not highlighted, you can kind of tell if it's like super specific or if it's just like, hey, can you get this done? Will you be using a sub? A lot of times they may have a document in there for the sub to complete, but if it's not being super specific about a sub and they must have, and the agency must have the information, a lot of times I will just put them down. I won't put them down at all. Excuse me. I won't put them anywhere in the proposal that I'm sending in. They would just be my sub on my side. So, you know, the past performance, I'm using them because they're stating they can do the work, even if it's something that my company doesn't necessarily do internally with my employees. I will have the sub do, and I don't need to list them or list their past performance in the proposal that I'm submitting. So I hope that makes sense. If that makes sense, go ahead and drop a 1 or something. Let's get, let me know that all this stuff is making sense when it comes to past performance. I don't think this is something that needs to be, that's drug out at all, but let me know if this is making sense to you. So we got another question statement. Should your NAICS code from your profile match the NAICS code in the proposal? From Lexi B, thank you for the question. That's actually thank you, Steel 951. Thank you for letting me know that it's making sense. So to answer your question, that's a really interesting question. So the NAICS code from your profile, and I'm assuming you mean SAM profile, match the NAICS code in your proposal. Now, I'm assuming all this is federal. So if we're just talking about federal, when you say your proposal, where have you seen that personally where you needed to enter in your NAICS code? If I remember correctly, you don't, when I say if I remember correctly, I don't really do my proposals anymore. My team does. The only thing I go in and do is pricing usually. But so I'm just trying to remember when it comes to federal proposals, the NAICS code doesn't usually need to be entered, because what happens is you're submitting your reps and certs into the proposal, or sometimes they'll ask you to include the reps and certs, or they can the agency will just pull them from the site, from the either DSBS or the SAM website. So to answer the question, literally, does it need to be in your proposal? I don't think you ever needed to enter that in. But okay, let me pause real quick. I see there's 21 people here on YouTube, so make sure y'all hit that like button, please, please, please. Share it, comment again, and then once I end the live, you can still ask questions because I can see the comments afterwards. So make sure y'all hit a like on YouTube, and then on Instagram, if you can pop over to YouTube and hit a like, that would be great too. I appreciate it. I got the link in my story. So yeah, so to answer that, literally, as far as the NAICS code, it should already be included, or it even actually, let me back up. So when you have the SF, oh my God, what the hell is the name of that form? Somebody help me out. The form you got to fill out on the federal side, where it has like the agency name, blah, blah. The NAICS code is already going to be there. So to answer that question, literally, again, the NAICS code is already going to be like on the top of that SF, whatever damn form that is, on the federal side. But on the local side, NAICS typically doesn't apply. Like sometimes it does, but it typically doesn't apply. But we're talking about federal, it's already going to be there. Now, if I were to forward think about maybe what you're asking for real, is can you bid on something that's not in the NAICS, not the NAICS code as your primary NAICS in SAM? So the answer to that question is absolutely. It's in your best interest to add a NAICS code that you are submitting an opportunity for, because I actually bid on something and that NAICS code was not in my SAM, and that contracting officer contacted me and said, hey, you need to add that NAICS code, or basically I can't award this contract to you. So Lexi B, if that answers your question, or you want to ask it in a different way, just let me know. So is it Aretha Rogers? What if my past performance is from working on a local state contract, but was Oh, but was over 6 years ago. Excellent question. Okay, Lexi B, answer your question. Great. So that's a great question. You asked two questions in one. Local state counts. I believe the order of operation, if you will, or like the order of how you can actually like what the agency may recognize. So if you're going after a federal contract, federal past performance is number one. Local past performance, like state, city, county, whatever, is number two. Number three is like corporate agencies, like your Coca-Colas, your T-Mobiles, your AT&Ts. That's like number three. Commercial, commercial, corporate, same thing. Maybe residential, and then personal. So it kind of goes like this. Thank you, is it Britannia? Thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate that. I'm gonna highlight your question in just a second. I appreciate it. Don't forget the super chat, y'all. So when it comes to that, you absolutely, local contracting counts 1,000%. Now, when it comes to the 6 years ago, it greatly depends on if that agency is asking has been completed within the last 6 years. So do with that as you may. If you were, let's say you were working in state buildings. Again, I'm in facility management, so a lot of the references I'm going to give are going to be based on facility management, janitorial, construction. So let's say you were cleaning all the state buildings in the state of Florida, right? And it was over 6 years ago, and you're going after a federal contract where they want you to do cleaning for, I don't know, 10 buildings. Now, would I list that as past performance? 1,000%. I don't care if it's 20 years ago. I'm listing it because it's showing that you were able to handle that volume of work at some point. Sometimes it does say within 6 years, but I still list it. And I mean, I may have played with the date a little bit. Just saying. I'm not trying to make anybody do anything illegal, but I'm just saying, like, you're trying to make it right until you can get the past performance where you don't have to, exaggerate, if you will. But if you did some great work for the state, list it. And sometimes they might come back to you and say, well, it wasn't within the last 6 years. But what if you're the only person that bid on it, and you're like, you see the solicitation and it states the last 6 years, and you're like, oh, I'm not going to go after it because it says the last 6 years, or it says the last 5 years, and I worked on something 6 years ago. It's like, no, you need to go ahead and do that. Cool. So I hope that answers your question. Speaking your language, okay? Like, we're going to make this thing work until you get the past performance that shows them that you can do it. So boom. Let's see. Is it Britannia? I hope I'm saying that right. Give me a thumbs up if I am. I'm in healthcare staffing services. If you win a contract, do you send an invoice only for what your staff work and your fee, or pay net 30/60? Oh, like pay your staff net 30/60? Woo! This girl giving that. No wonder you did that super chat, because that's a heavy question. It looks like there's multiple questions in that. Which is not past performance related, but that's okay. So if I win a contract, do you send an invoice only for what your staff work and your fee, or pay net 30/60? I think I might need a little more clarification on, or pay net 30 or 60. I'm assuming you mean paying your staff. So leaving that question out for a second. When you send the invoice, you're saying when you win a contract, but when you submitted the contract, what price did you give them? Chances are, if you submit, especially if we're talking about, I guess it can be federal or local, when you submitted the proposal, you are submitting your pricing, whether it's monthly, weekly, percentage. So let's just say, I don't have a whiteboard or anything, so just use your imagination right now. So let's just say you submitted a proposal for 10 staffers I'm here in Atlanta, so the CDC, right? So you're telling them that you're charging, so you have your doctors, right? Let's say they make $100,000 a year. You're charging the government $120,000 a year, right? So when you're submitting your proposal, let's just say it's for 1 year to make it easy. They're working regular hours, 40 hours a week. and every week, just to keep it easy. And you're charging the government 120,000. You're paying your employees 100,000 for that year, and you have 10. So I'm not gonna do the math. I don't feel like doing the math, but nonetheless, you're giving them that price, the government that price. So that's what you're charging for. So that 10 times 120,000 divided by however you submit the invoices. So we're going to say monthly, which I'm sure it's probably going to be monthly. That's what you're charging the government. Now, unless you work out a deal to where you can charge them every 2 weeks, which is very rare, or if you have to charge them every so often, maybe, I don't know how they would do it. Usually it's going to be 30. And again, please clarify, Britannia, what you mean by or pay net 30 and 60. But as far as what you're charging the agency, you're sending the invoice quickly. And it also depends on how they do, when you start. So if your employees start in the middle of the month, you're not going to wait 30 days. You're going to bill them at the end of the month unless they specifically say you cannot do that. So if they start January 15th, then you're going to bill them January 31st for that prorated amount for however many people worked, however many hours, and you're going to, work it out like that. And that's what you're charging the government that first month. And then the second month, when it's like essentially hopefully a full month of the employees working, then you're going to charge them for that monthly amount. And again, you're charging with your fee already added. Okay. I hope that makes sense. Let me know if I need to clarify that. Cool. All right. So still 951. Are you looking to get into facility maintenance in Cali? No. Let me stop. So the reason why I said no quickly is because I don't really know the laws in California like that. It would have to make a whole lot of sense. So I'm going to say maybe. So if you're already in facility management, let me know. Drop your website in the comments. If you're already in facility maintenance, not like you looking to start or you looking for me to jumpstart in California and bring you on. No disrespect. I'm just asking. But if you're already in it, then let me know. Drop your website in the chat. Because I just know that in New York and California, it's a little tricky when it comes to like employment law and all that stuff. And I'm just like, ooh, I don't really know. It makes me nervous. So back to Britannia. I said it right. Thank you. We will build the government every 30 days. Correct. Yes. And Aretha, I hope I'm saying your name right. Aretha Rogers. Yes, because my experience is relevant. Thank you so much for the insight. You are very welcome. Keep the questions coming in. Otherwise, I think I probably explained this in depth. I hope. And but if I haven't, please let me know. And I will continue this as long as y'all continue with me. So don't forget the super chat. If you have any questions, if you find this valuable, make sure you hit a like button. There's 24 people on here now, so go ahead and hit that like button. Share it. And if you're on Instagram, don't believe I can see your questions, unfortunately. So either pop over to YouTube to ask your question or, I lost my questions. Pop over to YouTube to ask your questions. I have the link in my story. So, and then anything that you guys maybe missed, of course, it's going to be in the replay. It posts pretty much automatic on YouTube. So if there's nothing else, I'll give y'all like one more minute and then I'm vamos. Okay, boom. Nate Dogg said, can you use a subcontractor's past performance? I did cover that a little bit earlier, but very, very long explanation short. Yes and no, just depending if the agency is actually asking or specifically stating that you cannot use it in some form or fashion, especially if we're talking about a set aside. If it's a set aside, then it might be a little bit more, there's going to be a document that they, on the federal side, where they state that you cannot use a certain amount of the relying on the sub heavily. So I kind of went into that earlier, like in depth. So when you watch the replay, if you have any more questions, just go ahead and add it to the comments because I'll be able to respond. My bad, y'all. I'm not firing all cylinders right now. I'm like, okay. Monica Bowley, thanks for the gem. Thanks, you are priceless. Appreciate that. Go ahead and drop that super chat. You know what I'm saying? Just saying. If there's nothing else, I am going to vamoose up here. You guys know it's Vlogmas, so I'm trying to get as many videos information out to you guys. And don't forget to check out, if you're on Instagram, or most of y'all follow me on Instagram, or go to my website and you'll see that I have a GovCon Circle community. GovCon Money Makers is what we call it. And there's like almost, I don't know, 300 people in the group. It's 100% free to join. Just, sign up and we share information in there and resources. And there's been a few like connections where people are doing work together. But it's almost like a Facebook group outside of Facebook. So make sure you do that. It's GovCon Money Makers. And if you're on Instagram, the link is in my bio, in my site. I'm gonna go ahead and drop that in here. Check it out. And of course, I have the GovConNOW course, and we have so many successful students in there. It just gives me so much joy. It gives me so much joy. So Lexi B said, this is very helpful. You're so welcome. But just go ahead and head over to the site and check out the GovConNOW Moneymakers community, the GovConNOW course, where I teach you about federal contracting, local contracting, and corporate contracting. I also have something for my veterans. I think tomorrow, what's tomorrow? Saturday. Y'all gonna be shopping, but I think tomorrow I might do veteran stuff. So drop in if you're still on, those 21 people who are on YouTube, go ahead and hit a like. But then if you want something specific, like a topic for tomorrow, go ahead and drop it in the chat. And if you're not going to drop anything that I haven't already talked about, if you don't, Lord, I can't talk. If it's something I already talked about on a previous live, then I will just talk about some veteran stuff tomorrow, because I don't think I do a good job of really like explaining veteran stuff. And so just drop in the chat if there's something that you want me to cover, and I will do my best to go over it between, tomorrow and the end of the year, because I plan on doing these lives pretty much every day, or at least a video every day of the different topics, because I feel like they're super important when you're going through this journey. So yeah, let me know if you have anything, and I appreciate the super chats. Y'all are phenomenal. And I guess all the people who are on, go ahead and hit that like button, share button, share it later, catch the replay, all of that. So until next time, y'all, you guys been great. Thank you. Bye.